Three tomatoes are walking down the street. Papa tomato, mama tomato, and baby tomato.
Plain Ketchup presents.
Starring Lindsay Hinkle and Jamie Nelson.
So this is Plain Ketchup, is it? I prefer something with a little more kick.
Everybody's favorite condiment-themed entertainment podcast.
Put some hot sauce on my burrito, baby!
Hot sauce.
Nobody puts ketchup on a hot dog.
You're listening to Hot Sauce on PlainKetchupPodcast.com. I'm your host, Jamie Nelson, and
with me, my co-host, Lindsay Hinkle.
Today we are talking about the creative process with a couple of creative guys here from the band Ryanhood.
Let's talk about the creative process of coming up with an introduction for our audio podcast.
This is what they call meta-podcasting. Metacasting, if you will?
How do you prepare for podcasting?
Well, I drink lots of black tea with caffeine.
Well, why do you need caffeine? You're naturally bubbly.
I wouldn't use that word in a description of 10 words to describe yourself.
What are your 10 words then?
Well, creative was one, because my favorite color is orange, which is considered the creative color.
You know how, your favorite things are supposed to tell a lot about you?
Yeah?
My favorite Ninja Turtle is Michelangelo. My favorite ice cream flavor is cookie dough.
It's not orange.
No, it's not orange, but they have something else in common.
They are both mutants?
No.
They both have raw eggs?
They're both indicative of a party person personality. I guess I don't necessarily disagree with that.
I want to know where this medical book is that tells you your personality based on your favorite ice cream.
It's not a medical book per se, so much as the chart I found on the internet when I was putting off writing a paper. But I'm sure if you follow the sources and the people who worked on that chart, you'll find that they were very knowledgeable 13-year-olds with the assistance of Wikipedia.
Whose names are Ben and Jerry.
So creative process. Ryanhood.
Go downtown is falling down on the ground now, and all your hope has blown as ashes around now. Brick by brick, beat by beat, your heart will survive until the second city lights begin to rise.
Ryan Green and Cameron Hood, how are you guys?
Doing great. We're wonderful. Good to be with you, James.
Great. Thanks for joining me. So we're talking about the creative process. You're definitely one of the more creative bands that I know of. So why don't we set the stage and you guys talk a little bit about your favorite creative things that you do, whether or not it has to do with music.
So I went to college for art. So I got an art degree, and I did a lot of painting and drawing as well as graphic design. Since then, I've been in bands, and particularly being in Ryanhood for the past number of years, have used my graphic design degree a lot, just for album covers and T-shirts and that sort of thing.
Why don't you mention the creation of the artwork from the new album?
Sure, definitely. I've just sort of had an image in my head for a long time that I have wanted to make happen for our album After Night Came Sun, and the album deals with a lot of themes of kind of putting life back together, when you go through difficult times, how do you process that? I just did a lot of kind of cut paper, collage type stuff, painted some of it, cut some of it out of magazines, found photographs, and actually just kind of assembled the image that I kind of described. The city is burning and falling apart, and yet the sun is still rising. We have a song called Second City, which talks about a city burning down, the city of Chicago burning down, and the decision to rebuild and try and come back to life.
Actually, when I was watching the Second City video that's up on your website, I was like, wow, who did they get to do all these great drawings? And then I get to the end, I was like, oh!
Yeah, that was really fun. That was Ryan's idea for us to do, to really kind of, he basically said, take the lyrics of the song and write out the lyrics as quickly as you can, and then any images that come to mind. And I sort of took that idea and actually drew from old photographs of the burnt down city of Chicago, and just sort of went back and forth between the lyrics and just the images. And
well, it's fun. I think it's been fun to bring. So there's that side of being a band where you have to also kind of the other side of the brain where you have to market it or promote it, really. And it's kind of fun to make that a creative process too, though. And I think that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely seems like you guys are having fun. I saw that you guys were doing Kickstarter a while back, and I'm intrigued in what came of that, not just because you reached your goal and were able to make new songs, but you offered a lot of really cool, creative, and interactive things to people who helped out. Has any of that come to fruition yet?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of strange and random custom songs is one of them for people, and that's been a fun process to do. And normally we get to be very selfish when we write and completely write from our own experience, but instead we're taking other people's experiences and turning that into song, and that's a really interesting process.
One of them, I think, said singing backing vocals.
Yeah, we had that.
We did that, yeah.
That took place. Yeah, we had people come in. We had 3 people come in and sing along with us. We all tracked them together. A bunch of parts that are kind of what we call gang vocals, where you're singing parts together in unison, and that was, I mean, a very, and again, a really cool bonding process. If you donate at a certain level, you get a shirt that says "I helped make the Ryanhood record." We'll see people in those shirts at the shows, and it feels like a really fun little insider club of people who kind of did this together, whether it was somebody who gave a lot or even just a little, just a few dollars. It seems like everybody felt like this is really cool to kind of make art together in a way.
How is this record different than your previous albums?
That's a really great question. I was probably just going to talk about that also. I mean, even with just like how we're raising the money and getting involved with, like our friends and our fans and families are helping us make this record. I mean, that whole thing is very different from the last one. The last one, we went to Los Angeles and found a producer who was interested in us, who had won a Grammy, and kind of did the whole demoing process and went out there, and it took us about 3 years to finish this thing. Our producer was busy with a lot of other projects, and it just kind of took us a long time to work through it. And it's a really nice album. The World Awaits is what it's called. So it's one that we're proud of, but it doesn't. I don't want to say that it sounds like slick. It definitely sounds like us, but it's maybe a little bit just like clean. It's kind of like really cleaned up. We some of the songs we did 20 and 30 takes of the vocal, or that sort of thing, where you just really do it over and over until you get it right. So there's a lot of that on there, and it's just a really kind of clean recording. And like I said, 3 years it took us to make it, and it took just a ton of money, like way more money. So that was the last record. The new record, though, funded by friends and fans, and we're doing it we did it for way less money, and did it in our hometown. And a friend of ours is a producer, and we did it basically at his house and at house studios all over our hometown of Tucson, and made it with musicians who are our friends, and made it a little bit more off the cuff, a little bit more live sounding. There were probably a couple of mistakes here or there on the record, but I feel like it sounds really fun and really alive.
Yeah, is that the video that I saw on YouTube, or was it YouTube? I don't know, of like putting up the sound walls in the living room and all that?
Yeah, it was all done exactly. It was done in a friend's house. We didn't have a rush. We weren't on any clock. It was more about the emotion of the performance and the idea coming across than perfection. So far, the feedback has been that it sounds maybe more like us than any record we made, because I think it's a little more raw and honest, and like I said, first and second takes and things like that. Where it's pretty real.
Very nice.
One cool thing about the creative process, it's like you may have an idea in your mind of how you want your guitar part or your vocal part to sound, and so you go in and you do the first, you sort of do your first pass at it, you sing it all the way through or something, and you go, well, that's not what I heard in my mind. I kind of had it planned differently, and so you may sort of chase it down and do another several vocal takes, and you might get it more right, more perfect, more like what you had in mind, but then you go back and listen to it later, and you go, well, which of these takes moves me? Which one, which one's compelling? Which one makes me feel sad or makes me feel like wonderful? And a lot of times it's like the first take or the second take, even though it didn't quite hone in on like the perfection that you were going for, it still just sort of had something different. And I think we've due a lot to our producer Ryan Alfred have trusted in some of those earlier intuitive takes rather than the more perfect later takes.
They say the same thing about drawing. I've had drawing teachers who will tell you, like, if you go to draw something, your first even sketch is going to have more energy and look better than if you the second time you try to draw the same thing, because you can never quite get to that energy of when you were first trying to piece it together.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, huh?
Yeah.
I'll show Ryan some of my drawings sometimes, and he likes the sketches better than the.
We've used there was that was how we did a live album called On the Radio, and Cameron sketched out some ideas, and one was a little sketch of this quick sketch of a radio, and I was just like, that's what we should use. We use the sketch. Important I carry a recorder around everywhere I can for that same reason, that nothing has frustrated me more than like trying to recreate an idea, getting struck with an inspiration. Maybe it's even just in my head, a melody I'm singing, and by the time I get somewhere and get home, it is morphed enough. Maybe it's a half hour later, and it's I can tell it's just lost something.
Yeah, and I guess inspiration's a bit like dreaming, where you kind of gotta jot down your dream real quick, otherwise it's gonna slip away.
I always feel a little guilty about that sometimes, because I remember hearing Paul McCartney say that he and John Lennon, when they would write lyrics or melodies, they wouldn't write anything down or record it, and if they couldn't remember it the next day, they just assumed it wasn't good enough.
Oh.
It had to be so good that they couldn't forget it,
One of the things we did differently in this record is we just sort of didn't say no for a really long time in the process. It was just like, you wrote a song, great, bring it to the table, let's record it. You wrote a song, great, let's bring it. And we kept the kind of editor out of the process for a long time. And I think both Ryan and I have that kind of inner editor, like peering over our shoulder, judging our work pretty strongly. And I think that we were maybe just for a while able to keep that at bay and just kind of create without going, how will we sell this? What will the other people think of this? How will this be received? Is this commercial? Is this like indie enough or whatever? Just all of that kind of stayed out for a while. And the only questions we asked were like, is this compelling? Does this move me? Is it beautiful? Is it, those sorts of questions. And that makes me just like, I don't know. I like the record, but I like the process. I sort of am in love with the process that we have for this record. Just to do that, just to get that experience for a while, and keep the editor out for a little while, and just sort of be creative. And then at the end of the process, you bring the editor in. You go, okay, great. We have all this material. What's practical? What's the best of the stuff that we have here? And then we kind of narrow down from there. But to be able to just create for a while without asking those questions of sale or promotion or editing, was really freeing for us.
As a fiction writer, I definitely hear that, because I have that thing where I agree, I have to turn off the editor in my head if I want to have any sort of creative outpour.
Right, you almost can't get to your more creative places, your more imaginative places, if you sort of jump up and tell yourself, well, that's stupid, I could never make anything from that. I mean, does that ring true for you?
Absolutely.
I think that's what we hear a lot from people at shows who are maybe aspiring to be songwriters will often have a really hard time finishing a song. They'll say, or finishing lyrics, or they say, well, I tried writing lyrics, but they're always stupid. That sort of critic is the only thing holding it back, I think, and what we're talking about. So it's a lot of people, I think, could do great writing if they didn't worry about. And what if you didn't even have to show it to anybody, ever, and you just had a goal of writing a dozen songs for yourself, without the pressure of other people's opinions? It becomes a lot easier.
Your songs continue to develop as you're recording. Do you think they continue to develop every time you play them live?
Any evolution in it is going to come from audience participation, or their somehow what they draw out of us with it. But when we play with a drummer or with a keyboardist, that certainly immediately throws curveballs into it, and we might completely change an arrangement.
What's your favorite song genesis story? Can you walk me through the creative process of one of your favorites?
Ryan basically wrote a lot of music, like he was talking about taking a recorder around with him. Several of those I heard and kind of co-opted without actually asking him. And I just sort of took a chance and wrote some lyrics and presented them to him, and he was generally in favor. And so that kind of thing where where the song ends up being completely like 50-50. Didn't put anything into your place. Second City, After Night Came Sun, songs from the new record were written that way. And I really like that the songs go further than where either of us would have gone on our own.
For me, because they did all three of those started as instrumentals, it has a lot to do with like environment. There's something about getting a different guitar in my hands or getting in a different room. You know, you can be more sort of spiritual about it and say like, oh, the room has something different in it, or you can be scientific about it and just the room sounds different than the other room you're in. But either way, it inspires different things. And I remember we were at Cameron's grandparents' house on a resting between some shows, and I had the mandolin, and it was there that I started creating the music for Second City. So it's almost never happens at home anymore.
Yeah, every room has something different to say, I guess.
Perhaps.
I was just thinking about the way that we write songs, or I guess more specifically the way I write songs and what it feels like for me. And it's like, it feels good. And that's like, I feel like it's a blessing in my life. And I don't know that I always felt that way. Like, I think I used to think it's a curse. Oh, I have songs and I have to bring them out to the world because I'm so special, the world needs to hear what I have to say, and I'll carry this heavy burden. You know, and I thought, like, as the song would come, I would be, like, in a race to get it out, you know, like, kind of, like, a race to find the right rhymes and the right words to kind of make it happen, and I really wanted to see the song in its finished form, and then I'd, like, finish it, and I'd play it, like, you know, 2 or 3 times in its finished form, and I'd be bored of it. It'd just be, like, it loses its magic once it's a completed piece, maybe, and the way it feels to me more now is, like I like doing it more than even the finished project now. Like I kind of even am aware, like while I'm writing or creating, like this is something special, that like there's some good thing that I get to be a part of, like as I'm searching for like the right line or the right piece of poetry. And I love words, and I get all like, you know, caught up in finding the right words and stuff, and I obsess about them and everything. But that to me has become fun. It's become something I really like about life, to get to be creative, to get to work at that and put those things together. I feel like in that sense I'm a little bit more present than I used to be. You know, I can enjoy while it's happening more than just finishing it, you know. And that's, I don't know, I just like I feel giddy about it sometimes. I almost get like a runner's high, like a writer's high, I guess, you know, just from putting words together. And it seems like silly, but
no, I can relate.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. It's better to write than to have written.
I love that. I love that. So I guess that was my big pithy thought for the end.
Ryan, how you doing?
I'm agreeing with everything you guys have said.
So your adoring public can find you at ryanhood.com.
Yes.
And from there, they can find your Twitter and Facebook, so they can stalk you all over the interwebs.
Woo!
And our YouTube and the videos we talked about. Well, you can find the album, all of our stuff on iTunes and on Spotify, and so please check it out.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me, you guys.
It was our pleasure.
Absolutely, Jamie.
Thanks for stopping in, guys. Bye.
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 When the city burned down, we rallied all around. The water tower rim was left downtown. You and I climbed with the lake behind, and through the smoke we saw where our city died. We saw burned out bridges and burned out parks, burned out kitchens and burned out hearts. We watched the flames take City Hall and watched the brand new hotel fall. So wrong, so young, so good and full of promise. So long to everything we've lost. And though downtown is falling down on the ground now, and all your hope has blown as ashes around now, brick by brick, beat by beat, your heart will survive until the second city lights begin to rise. up high where the city holds up the west half of sky. And looking out, left no doubt that everything that burns turns back around. We're so wrong, so young, so good and full of promise. We're so long to everything we've lost. And though downtown is falling down on the ground now, and all your hope has blown as ashes around now, brick by brick, beat by beat, your heart will survive until the second city. I have known you, baby. I have seen that you are strong. You will burst out of the blues. You will burst into a song. We'll say so. And though